Today is Friday, January 3rd, 2015, and I, Coach Mona Towner, and I are reflecting on today's site visit. We had visitors from West Aurora School District in Illinois. They are a K-12 district, about 12,000 students, so quite a bit larger than us. And this was actually their third site visit to Berwyn. Oh, sorry, fourth. They've been here three other times. Right. So the first time was back in November of 2012, and then actually after that, West Aurora brought in state reps Linda Chapalavia and Lisa Hernandez in on a site visit. So props to them for helping bring them into our schools. So they were anxious to come back for another visit and see where we're at about a year later. And the school that we visited today was Hiawatha, and we actually got into 8 classrooms today. So Mona, I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about like what this group was like, what the visitors were asking, or just a little bit about them.
So it was a good mix of people in the classroom. They even had a school board member.
Yeah.
They had a couple administrators, some people on the tech side as well. It was nice because a couple of them had been here before, but they had never been to Hiawatha, so that was nice to see. One of the things, so they're particularly interested in the instructional side because they feel like they have their infrastructure in place. So we get a lot of groups that ask about, setup and beginning stages, and they're more interested in the instruction side. So they asked a lot about SAMR and talked a lot about what they know about the model from Dr. Ruben Kutador. And also one of the questions that I got was about pushback. So they're about 3 to 1 right now is what he said. And so the question was how these teachers are saying kids are going to be playing on their devices. There's no way to make them accountable. And I really said, well, the first thing is they're not going to be playing on their device if you plan meaningful lessons that are engaging to them. And then the other thing is that the room it was the perfect room for him to ask the question in Julianne LaFleur's room, because she had on the board all her learning outcomes. So for the kids to read, and she goes over that with the kids, during reading, after reading, you should know this, this, and this, right? So now the kids know they're accountable for that. So that's one piece. And then I said, and the other is the bell ringers, the exit slips, the drop boxing, the assignments, the quick, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. I got it. I don't got it. Kind of a thing is we're constantly assessing these kids, and it's easy to do that quick with the devices. So it's really making the teacher's job easier, not harder, to do that constant assessment and get that feedback in real time, right?
I find that kind of went to like what they were asking about, or not necessarily asking, but pointing out the fact that we don't have a system in place that like watches, like one of those software apps watches what kids are doing. So I can be a teacher sitting in my desk like looking what is on everyone's screen. Well, I should be walking around my classroom anyways, and like you said, providing engaging lessons, and you shouldn't have to worry about that piece. So I think that on top of what they were asking and what they were seeing in the classrooms, what they seemed to be most excited about when we were debriefing was the level of confidence in the students' abilities. They even said, like numerous times, they could not believe that this little kindergartner was saying, oh, well, I'm writing my notes here, and then I'm going to turn it into Shobi because then my teacher is going to send it back to me and tell me how I did. Like this little 5-year-old is communicating that, and they said that they saw that throughout all of the buildings, throughout all of the classrooms, that the students just felt really confident in sharing and knowing their expectations, what they were doing, and what they were supposed to be doing. I also really enjoyed like that you mentioned SAMR, because another visitor said that what they were so excited about is, he said, I must have heard the word above the line 12 times today. And I kind of like chuckled, and he said, you talked about it in your welcome presentation. You're talking about constantly pushing teachers up, and then even in the building, you had the assistant principal talking about, oh, well, this teacher, or what you're going to see right now is more at the augmentation stage. So just being able to recognize those levels. So that was what one of the visitors were really excited about hearing. I think that goes back to the instruction piece, like you said, that they were so interested in. So, well, let's talk about some teacher stories and give some shout outs to two teachers that we saw today.
Okay, so my shout out goes to Julianne LaFleur, and I'm was excited to be in her room and see what's going on in there. She had a lot going on. Her and her co-teacher were having small groups. Kids, first graders working on telegami. That's awesome. It's such a fun app for presenting out whatever they're learning and showcasing their learning. In reading, different reading, reading centers. You saw kids reading books on their own ability level. So lots going on in that classroom, tech and non-tech. So yes, let's see.
What devices? What
she has iPads, and she just got iPads about 2 weeks ago, when we got back from break. And
is that quickly ago?
Yes, and she is knocking it out of the park. Like, you would think that she's had iPads since the beginning of the school year. Telegami.
Her 1 month into teaching with that's great. I liked her classroom management tip where she also had her, and she's planning minis, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I liked her. She had a picture of each kid on the front of her iPad, so you could quickly see who's it belonged to. What grade is she?
First
grade. Well, way to go. Great shout out, Mona. My shout out also goes to a lower, a primary teacher, and that is to Kristen McGinnis. Kristen McGinnis is a kindergarten teacher. She has one-to-one iPads. And when I walked into her classroom, the first thing that I noticed was this center that was going on the floor. There was a binder that was open with all of these QR codes in it and a book title above the QR code. And this little boy, I squat down to try to figure out what they're doing, and he says, "Do you like to scan?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Do you like to scan?" Do I like to scan QR codes? I'm like, "Yeah, I like to scan it. Scanning is fun." So he's like, "Do you want to scan with me?" So I was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "Oh, after I finish the story," because he was reading a book. So what Kristen had done was create this binder of different books and book titles that the kids scanned which one they wanted to go to, and then it played a YouTube video that she found where it actually was a video, and then it read them the story. And she had pulled it through SafeShare so that the YouTube video didn't have any of the ads or anything around on the sides of it. So I don't know, that just really kind of blew my mind. I loved it. And a further shout out goes to Kristen Kennedy over at Irving, because she said that she follows her blog, and Kristen Kennedy does a lot with QR codes, so she got the idea from her. But I loved being in that classroom, and I will never just forget that little boy. "Do you like to scan?" I mean, who knew what a QR code was when they were 5? Not us. We didn't have them, but
right.
I don't
know.
So
cute.
Well, Mona, can you talk about the debriefing at all?
It was good. A lot of good conversation. They talked about some of the assessments that they do, and that was interesting because that was something new. And we talked about keyboarding. I'm going back to Park, and so you know how I feel about keyboarding. It's obsolete except for Park. And that you can't undo what these kids have been doing since they've been on their computers since they were 3 or 4 years old. So teaching traditional home row keyboarding is not going to work.
And a big thank you to the debriefing attendees, and that is Assistant Principal Bill Davini. Thank you for being here again, and also Ginny Burdett. Thank you for taking time out of your classroom to be here with us again. Mona and I would like to end with our favorite quote of the day from the evaluation, and that states, "I would not have known first-year teachers from those who were not. Every room engaged and awesome. Students were responsible for their learning and able to verbalize what they were doing. It was a great experience." So thank you, West Aurora, for your site visit, and thank you, Hiawatha, for hosting, and we'll see you on the next one.